Hi, and welcome to this Techarati interview series ahead of Cloud Expo Europe on the 8th and 9th of March at Excel London. I'm Stuart Crowley, Closer Still Media's Global Content Manager and Editor of Techarati. And today my guest is Graham Bromham. He's the Head of Regional Sales and Service Providers at Fujitsu UK. And he'll appear at Cloud Expo Europe to explore how pay-per-use can unlock growth and the transformational impact of cloud. So welcome, Graham.
Thanks, Stuart. Good to be here.
Great to have you. So, firstly, on your first session at Cloud Expo Europe, you're going to be talking about unlocking the use cases of pay-per-use. So, this as a service field, we know it's growing for quite a few years now, and it's becoming a very crowded market for software as a service, platform as a service, bare metal as a service, lots of as a service, and then you've got serverless too. They're all fighting for this slice of a pie. So why do you think as a service industries are growing?
I think as society, just general purchases, we're getting much more used to moving into a subscription monthly type payment, I guess, regime, whether it be gym, whether it be Netflix, and everything else, I guess cars and anything else that we pay for. Clearly, I think the push to cloud over recent years has meant again that people have started to shift budgets into being much more OPEX than pure CAPEX. And then I think the point you make, which is also the flip of that, which is people who have moved towards a cloud approach are now starting to look at what the alternatives are, often something that's more predictable, something that's maybe more cost effective, but has some more, or as many of the features and flexibility of cloud and the payment models as possible, but maybe with some of the surprises and the nasty pieces removed. So I think that's what I hear from people as to why they're starting to consider traditional purchase of IT platforms in a cloud-like as a service model. With
that choice in the market, what do you think the business leaders should be prioritizing when considering an investment in as a service?
I don't think there's any doubt that there are some very good use cases for using public cloud and using hyperscalers. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everything you do and all of your applications and workloads are going to be well suited to move to or to run in the cloud. I think one of the key things is, for example, it's quite easy to go and put email in the cloud, etc. It's probably quite easy to take your CRM system or your ERP system and take a software as a service approach and transition people across to it.
Yeah,
that's fine, but how much retraining of tech people, but more importantly, probably business people and business process, do you have to change in the business as part of that change? So if you could repurpose and redeliver your in-house ERP or CRM system in a cloud-like manner, without the need to repurpose, to rebuild business processes, etc., that probably sounds a pretty efficient way of doing it, as opposed to moving to a software as a service platform, of which there are many, that would do the same job, but not in the same way, and needing a different business process and a different set of compliance rules and all kinds of things. So for me, it's almost, what does the application deliver, etc.? What are the risks, and what workloads work best where?
What sort of businesses are reaching out to you for your services in terms of like a hybrid cloud model, and also the UScale product that you have?
So we've got service providers who are, I guess, de-risking. We've got other customers who want flexibility, agility, and speed to market. They want to know, I can burst, I can grow quickly, I've got predictability of cost, but I've also know where the equipment is, I've got control, and potentially my own techs are running the technology that they're trained and experienced in, and we haven't had a huge refactoring, repurposing, and reskilling process along the journey to get there.
Right. And speaking of the UScale product, the Fujitsu UScale, where does it fit in the as a service kind of landscape? Doing a quick Google search on it, you would make the assumption that it's an infrastructure as a service, but is it more fluid than that?
It's none of those and all of those. as in Uscale ultimately is a way to consume, ultimately it's a way to pay for your consumption of physical technology. So with Uscale, you're not subscribing to a Fujitsu service that is run out of a Fujitsu data center. What you are doing is you're having physical, dedicated, private equipment that is delivered to the location of your choice, your co-location facility, your owned data center, your premises, but is paid for based upon what you use. So you'll get, in effect, it's a bit like taking a car from a manufacturer and paying for it based on every mile that you drive it, as opposed to going into a dealership and paying for it up front.
Are there features of vendor lock-in with Uscale, or does it allow that fluidity across?
It's primarily anchored on Fujitsu technology because so ultimately that's there. Our portfolio comprises of a lot of alliance partners. We can deliver most of our alliance partner solutions with Uscale as well. So pretty well anything's in our data center. So in our integrated systems portfolio, we will have combinations, and these will typically be software-defined data center, Fujitsu hardware with the software layer provided by our partners from Microsoft, VMware, Nutanix. In the storage arena, we'll complement our own Eternus portfolio with NetApp, for example, because we have a strategic alliance with NetApp. Certain parts of their portfolio complement ours. And in the data protection space, we'll use typically most of the usual suspects to provide that resilience, ransomware, data protection type piece as well across the solutions.
One of our themes at Cloud Expo Europe is optimizing IT infrastructure, and part of that is optimizing cloud cost and cloud spending, which I gather is a large benefit of Uscale. So on top of that, how do you think that Uscale delivers a hybrid architecture with the same flexibility of cloud and relating that to this optimization of infrastructure?
I mean, that's a really good question. One of the keys purely is around the flexibility. So when a customer, an organization typically starts on the process of investing in infrastructure, they'll design what they need, they'll work out what growth, they'll probably add a degree of contingency, and that in effect will have an initial solution that's been architected and a bill of materials. So within that, there was growth. So there was a day one requirement, there's a need, there's future growth, then there's contingency, because nobody wants to go back in 6 months' time and say we got it wrong. So that bill is probably at least 50% bigger than it probably needs to be on day one, but that probably is the right solution. With Uscale, ultimately, you're going to get delivered the physical equipment that you need based upon a forecast, but you're only going to pay for what you're using. So let's just say, for simple sake, it happens to be that you've got 10 server nodes delivered, and you've taken those, but you only need 5 to start with. So you're paying for 5. So clearly, you're not paying for the 5 that actually are physically there. If the next month you need to turn on another 2, you don't go and order them, they're physically there. You just start to pay for them, just like you would if you bursted into the cloud. So that commercial utilization and paying for what you have, not paying for the over provisioning. So you haven't made a big investment up front, so you've got the cost of money. Mm-hmm. You're not necessarily running equipment and installing it when you don't need to. And you've got the flexibility to be able to, turn things on, bring new users on, bring new workloads and applications on almost instantaneously, but without having to have a crystal ball or literally fill your data center to address every possible requirement.
Have you had people come to you and that being a major kind of pain point of theirs, that they are overspending? Are you noticing any trends around it? I've read that cloud governance or data governance is one of the pain points that is causing the overspending. What sort of trends are you experiencing?
I think we're seeing all of those, which is more and more customers wanting to have discussions around Uscale and topics associated with repatriation from the cloud,
Right.
because of exactly that reason, which is we thought 3 or 4 years ago everything was cloud. There's very few people these days saying, I'm just going to the cloud and it will be exclusively the cloud. Whatever the cloud is, most people talking public hyperscale cloud. And that is because, wow, how did my bill go up by 50% in 1 month? Because it's really easy for people to spin things up and leave them and forget about them. Hence the dawn of so many cloud optimization and management tools. But ultimately, there's still a huge amount of unpredictability and a lot of CFOs and financial controllers having significant surprises on a regular basis on why the spend is so far away from budget. And as you say, I mean, the story actually that one of our service providers told us literally at an event we ran last month was a real simple example of snapshot backups being retained. There was an error and they weren't being cleaned down, and that relatively small customer was £27,000 extra for the month. If that had been on their own, if the worst case on their own platform is that they've used up a little bit more storage. And there was an error in the system, but ultimately, because it was consuming public cloud storage, it had to be paid for. There was a bill. It was a glitch bill, but it's a hefty price to pay.
One of the statistics from a Fujitsu report was that 58% of businesses struggle to keep up with new cloud technologies. And based on that statistic, do you think that could be a reason as well why this overspending happens?
Cloud now is cloud is a virtual infrastructure that is, that somebody else is running on your behalf, ultimately, that you're subscribing to a small piece of. But you can run so many technologies on it. Virtualization, containers, like you say, full software applications. So I think by its very nature, it's just very complex. I think if you've got a team dedicated at it who have got to grips with it and understand it, then they can make some pretty good decisions. And I think more and more well-educated businesses and it comes back to this multi-cloud, are starting to look and say, actually, it's cheaper to run this storage platform in this cloud. Actually, my highly intense artificial intelligence piece works better in this cloud because they've got the right optimized workloads that they've built, or resources.
And another statistic in the report was that 60% of organizations have a hybrid cloud strategy in place. Do you think that is because there's so much choice that people maybe try to cover all their options and choose different cloud providers for different things? Or why do you think that might be the...
I think it's more that I think the general understanding of cloud has matured to the point at which people don't necessarily see cloud as the one answer that fits all. Is whilst it might not be quite as advanced as we would like it to be with right cloud for the right workload, I think to some extent it is there, which is certainly you're looking at an application there saying, I've got some storage here, that would be quite easy, especially if there's archive storage, not have to worry about, and it's scalable. I've got a application here which would work in the SaaS environment. Why would I not do that? Maybe my email is definitely going to be cloud because we're Microsoft and we're going to go 365 or something. And then back to my line of business example, which I think is the easiest one to almost justify, which is I've got a line of business application that pretty well everyone in the business, from production through to accounting, utilizes in their own different way. And if I had to change that and move that to something else, that is an enormous change control process and a cultural change process in the business. So actually, I'd just like to move that from the servers that are in the basement computer suite into something that is more secure, more scalable, maybe more modern, but is still delivering the application almost transparently back to the users in the same way.
You mentioned the vision of right cloud for the right workload. What are you doing at Fujitsu to enable that vision?
So, I mean, that is an ingrained methodology and approach that we have for working from customers from day one when they're on that or looking to explore that cloud journey, which is workshopping them through that process to almost talk about that concept of right cloud for the right workload. So we have what we call CX labs, customer experience labs, which is a virtual environment that helps us bring to life the various choices of technology, how that can be delivered. Then there are assessment tools to be able to understand what you have, where you have it, even then to be able to then predict costs based upon where you might run it. Cloud for us could be private, service provider led, managed service provider led cloud, could be hyperscaler of any flavor, could be a combination of both, could be relatively small niche SaaS provider. But that's for us, that's where we're looking at, and we've got approaches that enable us to deliver that to customers, level the playing field, and give you as much of that flexibility as possible. That's where UScale plays, and for us, I guess that's one of the logics of doing it. That it's, I think, more and more customers in terms of organisations will buy services, won't buy products. Service providers and organisations running these platforms will buy products from vendors. So in turn, you sort of have to look, the market shifts that way, and that's the right thing. So vendors like Fujitsu need to make sure that we're delivering our products in a way that is suitable for how they're being consumed.
We will have a lot of people at Cloud Expo Europe as well looking for solutions to their hybrid cloud problems, or perhaps their overspending, like we've talked about. So what are you particularly excited about for Cloud Expo Europe with your two sessions on pay-per use and cloud transformation?
So I think we've got two really great formats. So we've got no death by PowerPoint, really interactive. So our UScale session is combining, I guess, panel discussion with real world customer experience. So we're utilizing a customer who's been consuming UScale for a number of years, and I think has gone through 4 growth phases of that platform. And different technologies. So that's a really good story to understand how it starts, how it grows, how it encompasses different parts of the business, and the value that then that's delivered back. And that is real value in terms of how the business has seen growth and how it's seen its average deal sizes grow by a really significant number. And I don't want to steal the thunder of the session. And then we're joined on day 2. Chaired in effect, we have the Cloud Industry Forum leading a discussion on the current state, I guess, of cloud today. So talking about the sort of subjects that we talked about, but we are combining that with, we have 4 ecosystem partners joining us on our stand who are joining us in that session. So we're also going to get the opinions of 4 independent partners, ecosystem partners, from their perspective, and that will be from a data center provider, from a security provider, from a services provider, just around what the impacts they see of cloud, what is happening, and what they're hearing from their customers. So you're going to get a really broad spectrum there of what people's perspective are, what they're hearing, what their understanding is, the challenges that they are hearing customers are being faced, and how they're helping to address it. So I think we've got 2 really great sessions there, customer experience, and then the knowledge of, I guess, the industry forum, and also first-hand from people who are hearing it every day. Great to see people, they're the anchor themes on our stand as well. UScale and hybrid cloud is absolutely what our messaging is about. You'll see the technologies, you'll be able to talk with experts, We have our ecosystem zone where we have our 4 partners there as well. So not only just hearing and seeing what Fujitsu is about and what we can offer in this space, understanding actually our partners who are utilizing our technology, but not just about utilizing just Fujitsu technology, how they can solve customer problems. So they're part of our ecosystem. There's lots that they add with Fujitsu. There's also lots of value they add beyond Fujitsu. And hopefully that brings real value to people who come to the stand, talk about their technology, and can hear experts, on the day who are not just biased to being just purely Fujitsu. Hopefully you can get a more holistic view. So I think we're really looking forward to it. We've got a great stand. Really looking forward to the show.